Time Elemental was a really good card back in the day, and I always found that kind of interesting. So, let's take a look at Time Elemental. Time Elemental is a 0/2 creature that costs 2 and a blue mana. If Time Elemental blocks or attacks, then it gets sacrificed and it deals 5 damage to you. You can pay 2 and 2 blue mana and tap Time Elemental to return target permanent that isn't enchanted to its owner's hand. That's pretty interesting, and it certainly doesn't read super powerful by today's standards, but this card is better than it looks. This card doesn't see a ton of play in Old School, but it does show up sometimes. So what is it that makes this card kind of good? Well, it's the bounce ability, obviously. Everything else about this card is just downside. The first thing to notice is that this bounces permanents, which means you can hit their land drops, or anything else you would possibly want to hit, unless it's enchanted. That versatility was especially valuable in the early days of play when deck construction and strategy were still in their infancy. The game was also generally slower back then. In fact, one copy of this card appears in the 1994 World Champion deck. There's also a copy of Presence of the Master in the sideboard, so maybe I was wrong about that card. Or maybe not. Now, the World Championship deck from 1994 looks pretty bad from our modern day sensibilities, but there is a very good reason this deck list worked so well. This deck was built to be difficult to sideboard against. It's almost a singleton list, and the idea was that your opponent wouldn't really understand your strategy because everything was singleton. So you'd play out something, and they would side against that thing, then you either wouldn't draw it again because you either sided it out or you just didn't draw it again. When most of the other decks were pretty consistent, this is kind of a brilliant approach to game the meta, especially before open deck lists. Time Elemental functions really well in a slower environment, especially if you run control pieces and intend to trip up your opponent. There was only a single copy of Time Elemental in the list, and that also makes sense because even at the time, this card is kind of expensive for the effect and it is slow. That's usually why you don't see it too often these days in Old School, but this is a powerful effect, and if you can safely deploy this card and have the resources to use it, it is pretty good. The downside of only being able to bounce non-enchanted permanents doesn't really come up all that often because generally auras or other, auras, that's what they're called. Generally auras are usually pretty bad in Magic because if the creature gets removed, then you get 2 for 1 in card advantage because you lose the enchantment and the creature and they used 1 removal spell to remove it. So you just have less resources overall. Now, there are auras that are good, right? Like some of them do see some play, but they have to be kind of above rate to even have a chance at being played in most situations. Obviously, there are examples like Bogles and, stuff like that where it does work. But for the most part, you generally don't see too many enchantment auras unless they function as removal of some kind. This card synergizes with Presence of the Master, right? Because one, you could bounce it if you want to play an enchantment, but also they can't play their enchantment auras if you have Presence of the Master out. That's kind of interesting. I really like this card because it is strong and slow and weak and oppressive, and it kind of makes you think about the game a little differently. I don't know, but Time Elemental has always been such a compelling card to me. Also, I think this card flavorfully should have flying. I mean, look at the art. It kind of doesn't matter because it is very unlikely to be relevant because it deals 5 damage to you and sacrifices itself if you attack or block, so it's not like the flying would really do much, but it would be flavorful. Oh yeah, that also reminds me, it's explained in the errata, but not on the actual card. This card gets sacrificed and deals its damage at the end of combat, so if you do attack or block with this, the combat will finish before it gets sacrificed. So if you howl from beyond this thing or something, you can win the game doing that. It can also chump block lethal, if you need it to do that, but that's obviously not something that'll come up too often since this card is going to take a quarter of your life just to chump something. There aren't all that many situations where that is like a beneficial thing to do. I also really like the flavor of this card. Like, it is weird that this deals damage to you and goes away when you block or attack with it, but that does kind of add to the alien nature of this card. This creature is not like us, and it makes sense that it wouldn't really care about our earthly issues. It's also strange in the coolest way that you get punished for using this in the same way that you'd use another creature. The flavor and mechanics tie together really nicely to describe a creature that's so alien we can't really understand its motives and desires. Nor can we really control it in the same way we could control, like, a dude on a carpet or something. I don't know, I guess I just kind of find that interesting. What do you guys think about Time Elemental? It's a pretty sweet card in my opinion, and it's really neat that it did get some time in the sun before fading to irrelevance. This card was originally from Legends, which makes sense, there are a lot of cool weirdos in that set, and it was reprinted in 4th and 5th edition, but this card never got a second art. That is a bit of a shame, but I do really like the original art, so I'm not too broken up by the lack of additional arts. Either way, let's talk about it. Amy Weber illustrated Time Elemental, and I think she did a fantastic job. It might be a little on the nose to have various representations of chronometers on this card, because clocks are a man-made thing, and they don't really measure time in the way we like to think of them measuring time, but I do still really like the art. It's alien and a bit strange, and the art is beautiful. Amy Weber did a great job with this card. Amy always goes ham with the saturation, and her color choices are usually bold in a way that I really appreciate. Time Elemental is a perfect example of this, and while I don't think this is necessarily her best work, it is really good. I mean, just look at it. Super cool. Yup, that's it. That's the end of the video. Once again, I would like to encourage you to leave a comment sharing your experiences or opinions on this card. I enjoy reading them. You are also free to like the video if you liked it. You can subscribe if you give a shit, but either way, I hope you have a magical day. Thank you for watching.